Hello and welcome to this month's IRQTC Training Tips newsletter. I'm Brian Traskos, the founder and director of the Institute for Rehabilitative Qigong and Tai Chi. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2016. Hope that everyone had a happy and a healthy holiday season and is ready for an exciting new year. Here at the IRQTC, we are actually really excited about the opportunities we have this year to share with our IRQTC community and beyond. All right, this month's Training Tips newsletter, we're going to focus on the spine and lower extremities, especially in the area of our sacroiliac joint and our hip joints. Now, this area of the body acts as a force transfer area for all of our functional movement. Every time we reach up in the air or we lift something or anytime we move with our arms, we have to also recognize that the same amount of force we reach up with also goes down into the ground and is transferred through our hip and our sacroiliac joint area. Again, remember the astronaut in his space capsule up in space. He can't float across or move across his space capsule unless he pushes off of a wall to do so. And that happens the same way here on Earth. We are creatures of the earth. We're connected to the ground. We actually can't move in any direction unless we push off of something to move somewhere else. So generally our feet are connected to the ground and generally our hands are doing functional tasks. And whenever we move anywhere, we've got to have that efficient force transfer. When we have stiffness or tightness or dysfunction in the sacroiliac joints or in the hip joints, it creates dysfunctional compensatory movements in other parts of our body, which can eventually end up with problems further up our spine, our neck, our shoulders, our elbows, our arms, or also below that area in our knees or even on our ankles. So let's bring a little bit of attention today simply to this region of our body. We're going to do a Chen Style warm-up called hip circling. I also like to call it hula hooping. All right, so our hand position for this exercise is going to be placed on the low back, just below the areas of the kidneys. Fingertips are pointed down and thumbs are pointed out to the side. Just resting here. We just do this as a reminder to keep the lumbar spine in a neutral position. When we hold that neutral position in the lumbar spine and we do this hula hooping motion, we can focus our range of motion activities in our hips and in the sacroiliac joint. Okay? And it's also safer to do this movement this way for people who tend to have chronic lumbar spine pain. We also know, of course, when you have chronic lumbar spine pain, if we can loosen the hip joints and the sacroiliac joints, it reduces their spine pain as well. I'm going to step back a little bit further so you can see my whole body for this. Let's start off with your feet just underneath the hips. Eventually, we're going to widen this stance with this exercise, but let's start off like this. Now, hands are going to be placed on the low back just as we practiced a moment ago. Before we start our hip circles, let's start off with just a few pelvic floor contraction and relaxations in order to soften the pelvic floor a little bit. We also need to remember that hip and sacroiliac joint dysfunction can also be exacerbated by pelvic floor tension. We've got all those connections through the pelvic floor saddle into those areas. And we don't often work in the pelvic floor for obvious reasons, but we can teach our clients to do progressive muscle relaxation in this area. So let's just do 3 of these. Start off with doing a contraction of the pelvic floor like you're stopping the flow of urine. Go ahead and hold that contraction and then relax it and let it go. Let it release. I might also recommend we want to make sure, once again, that the knees are relaxed, our dinosaur tail is settled, and our head is lifted up towards the sky, so we're in our primary Tai Chi posture. Let's go ahead and tighten the pelvic floor again, a little bit more this time, a little bit more of a pelvic floor contraction, and then release. Let that pelvic floor relax. And then once again, pelvic floor contraction, just tighten, 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 only as far as is comfortable for you, and then relax and let it go. You might notice when you do this, you create a little bit more freedom in the pelvic bowl. You might feel like you have a little bit more space in that area, and that's kind of what we're looking for. Okay, next, hips. Just start with a very slow hula hooping motion. If that pelvic floor is adequately relaxed, you'll notice you get some freedom through the hip movement and also in the sacroiliac joints. So we just start off with this small movement, small rotations, either clockwise or counterclockwise, it really doesn't matter. And then we'll go ahead and go the other way. Remember that we're keeping the lumbar spine stable and just having this nice fluid rotation from the hips. Also, remember, if you can rotate further or more easily in one direction than the other, go ahead and do that. Working towards the side of ease can help unlock painful patterns. Okay, now if this is feeling pretty easy and feeling nice for you, remember this can also be done for people doing balance practices and these sorts of things. But if this is feeling pretty good, let's just open the stance up a little bit further, a little wider than hip width, and again, let's do some circles, either counterclockwise or clockwise, that's your choice. Remember to keep the lumbar spine stable and slowly increase these hip circles so you begin to feel the focus of that range of motion right in the acetabular joint and also in the sacroiliac joint behind. Remember again to work into whatever pattern feels better for you, if that's a directional preference, of course. Work both directions, one side and the other side. Let's go ahead and take an in-breath as we come forward and an exhale as we go back. The breathing coordination isn't that important really for this particular exercise. Just remember to take a deep breath every once in a while if the coordination doesn't seem to make sense or doesn't seem to flow. If it does, then great. Go ahead and do that. In-breath and out-breath. Slowly we're increasing the size of this Chen Style warm-up circle, keeping the pelvic floor relaxed as we do so, keeping the lumbar spine stable, feeling that loosening rotation in the acetabulum and in the sacroiliac joint. As you complete the movement, slowly come back up to stand, relax your arms, bring your feet together, and then just wiggle in whatever way feels comfortable for you. Hope that you've enjoyed this month's warm-up. We take this exercise program from our brand new Rehabilitative Tai Chi for Spine and Lower Extremity Dysfunction program that's now available on both streaming and DVD. This is just one exercise from that program. Hope that you found it valuable and enjoyed it. Please let us know how you're using these things. Head over to the IRQTC Facebook page and let's continue to share as a community and bring consciousness into healthcare. Take care. See you next month. Bye-bye.